Hey, this is Kev with Blender Binge, back with another tutorial for you. This time we're going to be making a gold leaf shader, and this actually comes as a request from one of my subscribers that was asking how to do a quick and easy gold leaf type shader. So I'm going to make it as fast as possible and show you how I would go about doing something really fast and passable. So, ready? Let's go. So I'm going to show you the scene I set up here. It's basically just a black background with a UV sphere sitting on top of just this kind of white backdrop that I made with a subdivision surface so it looks curved. And I have 2 or 3 lights in the scene, one on the side, one over here on the other side, and one on top. And the camera is pretty much facing straight in. So you could go ahead and create the same thing if you want and set it up that way. I'm in eevee right now, and I have screen space reflections turned on, and I turned off half res trace. So that's the scene so far, and the lighting is 50 watts here, 50 watts here at 4 meters, both are 4 meters, and this one actually is 25 watts at 4 meters here with shadows turned on. So let's get to it. Here's how to create this shader. So I'm going to go to my camera view and just hit 0. And you see that I have the shader ball set up. So the first thing I'll do is pull out a window where I can shade. Yeah, I could go up here to shading. This is 2.8, and I could use that, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to go over here. My mouse changes, pull this up, and I'm going to change this to shader editor, and I'm going to go ahead and give my sphere a shader. So I'm going to select it, I'm going to hit new, and we're going to use the principled shader. So this principled BSDF shader. So what I'll do is I'll first give it a light kind of color that would kind of go in the gold spectrum, something like that. And I'm going to change it to metallic. And now you can see if I take the roughness down, it starts looking pretty gold right off the bat. And to get some of this faceting out, I can simply go and I can hit Control 3 on the keyboard. And what that does is it goes over here and gives you a subdivision surface modifier on here. And it gives you the view of 3. If I hit Control 2, it would have give me a view of 2 subdivisions. So I'm just going to match render 3 and 3. Just so when you render it, it's going to look the same as when you view it. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go back to my shader over here, and I'm going to leave my roughness up at about 3 and change. All right, right about 0.371 in this case. And what I can do now is give it the bump that's going to start allowing this to look more like a modeled, hammered gold leaf type texture. So what I'll do is I'm going to go here to add, or you can hit Shift A, and I'm going to add in a texture, and I'm going to throw in a, let's see, I'm going to use noise. Put the noise out here, and I'm going to hit Shift A, go to vector, and say bump. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the factor of the noise, I'm going to plug it into the height of bump, and I'm going to take the normal to normal. And now I get this weird kind of noise pattern, and I can play around with this, and it'll kind of start making a foil look. Now this isn't really foily because it's just, you can see it's just way too it's not creased at all. So you could take the distortion up, and then you can take the detail up, and that'll crinkle it up and make it look a little bit more like foil, like something that's kind of hammered, like a gold leaf would be. And what I could do to make this even better is I can do something really interesting. So for the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this noise texture and I'm going to add in a texture coordinate node. And that's just going to tell us how we're going to map this around the sphere. So to do that, I'm just going to hit Add, Input, Texture Coordinate. And for here, I'm just going to say Object to Vector. And now it just kind of wraps it around arbitrarily around the object. I don't have to worry about UV or anything. I'm just going to use object for this. And now what I'll do is I'm going to add some creasing in by using a math node. And I know math is a little scary, kind of sounds scary, but trust me, it's really not. So if I hit Shift A and I go over to converter and I say math, I'm going to drop math over this line and it'll wire itself up. And then what I'll do is so I have two values here, and I can use additive. You can use multiply. There's a number of different math operators in here. I'll leave it at add for now. And I can go Shift A, I'll go to texture, and I'll say Voronoi. Throw in Voronoi, go factor, plug that into the second one, and now you see you're getting these creases in here added on top of this noise texture. And when you play with the scale of this, you can kind of start making it look like a hammered type, like kind of like gold leaf, very thin gold shader. And if you're using eevee, that's pretty passable. Now I can change this to cycles, and you see it looks even nicer. So what I can do here now is, instead of using the bump in cycles, you can go ahead and use a displacement, and that's going to make this look even cooler. So watch this. If I hit Shift A and I go to vector and I say displacement and I throw displacement in here, hook up displacement to displacement of your material output, and then I can take this value here, and I don't need to really use the bump at this point. I can take that out and throw that into height. And then for this shader, you simply want to go down here to this material. When you have this selected, go all the way down, hit settings, and you see it says bump only for displacement method. If I change that to displacement and bump, wow. So that's probably a little hot. I kind of don't think I want it that hot. So if I take the scale down now, I can just kind of push it up a little bit, and it pushes it out, and there I have a very kind of interesting looking, somewhat gold leaf looking shader. And it's all procedural, and we did it all in Blender, and you didn't need any kind of texture map. You could go ahead and find a foil texture map or a gold texture map, you know, gold leaf, and use that on here, but we don't. We want to just generate that within Blender itself, and this video is about how to do that. So now I could take bump. That's not really being controlled by anything. I can kind of just disconnect that if I want, or you could leave it connected and bounce back between eevee and cycles and get that look. And lastly, what I can also do is I can take this base color, I can hit Shift A and throw a ramp in there, okay, and I'm going to take the white, and I'll click on the white, use this eyedropper tool and choose this color here, and now I can plug color into base color, and I can control this with a Fresnel effect. So I can hit Shift A, go to input, I can do Fresnel or layer weight, either one, factor to factor, and now I can play around with these colors, and I can make the kind of at the glancing angle, I can change it and just add a little more punch to the gold. And this is optional, purely optional. You don't have to do this, but this gives you a little more, just a little more punch and a little more control. But other than that, there's your base color. There's something that looks pretty golden, and that should work for you. And one last thing we can do with this is, if you don't want to have that hooked up, that's fine. We can take our noise scale down a little bit and just play around and get something that looks, I don't know, a little less harsh. So we have the shader on here, and if I were to move this guy over, very last thing we're going to do in this video, move him over, and being that we have it set on object over here, what I can do is I can go add and just say I can add in like Suzanne. I haven't used Suzanne in a while in a video, so I'm going to use Suzanne here. And if I just take Suzanne and I give her the same material, you can see that she's now kind of covered in that gold leaf too. And the cool thing about that is that we've used this, not for the Voronoi texture. I mean, you could take object to vector and do the same thing, and that'll break it out on everything, but I just wanted to leave that off and just use vector in this case for the noise texture, and the Voronoi just kind of arbitrarily goes on top of it. And you can see that it looks like it's kind of covered in this sort of gold foil, kind of gold leaf look. Let me click off that so you can see it better. So if I were to render this, you can see what it looks like. So I'll do that and pause the video and come back. So here we have the render, and you can see here that I just went into color management under cycles, and I took on, for filmic here, I just put very high contrast, and it just kind of punches us out a bit from base contrast. So once this is attached to any other object, you can go obviously and adjust the UVs if you want. This is just generically using the object, but you can go ahead and adjust UVs and everything and see, like, I get a little distortion here and stuff. You can go ahead and fix that. That's really not too difficult. There's a video up here I have on using UVs. But other than that, this is pretty much how I would go about just basically crafting something quick and dirty to look, you know, like gold leaf. So hopefully that helps you, and if you got something out of this video, hit like, subscribe, share it, and I will just keep making more. Thanks. Talk to you in the next video. Bye.